What's going on, dads? It's your boy Big Dave back with another episode of Culture Dads, Age of Sword and Cassette. What is up, Mike? How we doing?
I'm doing good, Dave. Yeah, I've been binging the Kangs of Pulp podcast. This new podcast that I've heard all the buzz about. It's for guys who haven't heard of it or whatever, who are Culture Dads listeners. This is Dave's podcast. Well, is it going to be an ongoing thing or what? It's Dave's. He's been doing a couple of streams with our good buddy from Toadstool Mag and from Aegeon as well. So I've been listening to those. It's really cool for me because I don't know much about comics or anything at all like that. So it's kind of cool and pulp and everything. I mean, I've read some pulp stuff, the classics and everything, but it's just nice to kind of get I don't know. I just like to dive into something I don't know anything about sometimes. And it's just cool. You guys have good chemistry and everything like that. Are you going to do more of them or is it just a one or two off kind of thing?
Yeah, we're going to do some more of them. We kind of wanted to do one because here's the deal is a lot of times my streams are late. EST on the East Coast in America, and the British folks, they miss it. So Brendan lives in Ireland, and AC, he lives in England. He's an English guy. So they are in that time zone. So we wanted to kind of come together and talk about pulp, once in a while or whenever we have time. During that time slot, so all the British folks, because here's the deal with the pulp scene, especially in and around Bizarre Archives and the various adjacent spheres, is that it's probably 50% Brits. We have a lot of English writers, a lot of English. I go on and I look at my statistics. It's like 40% of all of my sales go to the UK. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, the English love their pulp. So, since they love the pulp, I wanted to get in their time slot so they could tune in and listen and hear us talk about it. And you're right, the pulp scene it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out of it, a lot of talented guys. There's a lot of new little publishers, a lot of new publications coming out that are doing various genres of fantasy and sci-fi and all kinds of stuff. And it's like it's a really important little movement because for too long, the traditions, literary traditions of fantasy and science fiction and horror and everything have been kind of inundated and cursed to carry this connotation of like fat nerd shit. And that's just not who came up with it. The guys that came up with it were adventurers, were soldiers, they were poets, they were intellectuals, they were nationalists, they were tough guys. A lot of them, Bob Howard was a bodybuilder. A lot of the guys like Heinlein and so forth were guys that were veterans, obviously. And then you go to the original fantasy. Tolkien was a war veteran and a linguist. Like these weren't just like fat nerds. These weren't fat fantasy nerds. These guys were men. You know what I mean? They were men, and they liked to write fantasy because they were good at writing fantasy because they lived it. And that's why modern fantasy doesn't really hold up to the old stuff. You know what I mean? Because those guys were historians and they were building off of old source material, and they were adventurers and warriors and poets and intellectuals.
They were real men, real dudes.
They were real fucking bros, real dads. And these guys now are a bunch of So that's what it's about. It's about bringing fiction back home to the dads, to the bros.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a good segue into the topic that we want to discuss today, because I mean, a lot of people know this. It's in the news and everything like that. Andrew Tate, this Manosphere adjacent male masculinity guru guy, has recently been arrested, and now he's been arraigned. He's been charged basically with child trafficking and a whole bunch of other heinous shit. basically in Romania. He's in a lot of hot water. And I recently watched I don't know anything about Andrew Tate, or I didn't up until recently. But then I watched his interview with the BBC, which for some reason he decided that he thought this would be a good idea, basically, in the middle of in the middle of a trial where, he's just basically giving the prosecution ammunition. But he decided to do an interview with the BBC to kind of tell his side of the story, basically. And in this interview, first thing I really ever heard him say for more than about 30 seconds, he did not make a good impression on me, actually. He came across as defensive, totally abrasive. If I'm being honest, kind of scared, to be honest. Like, he has every reason to be, because of the situation he's in. And so my thought of what we would talk about today is that we would basically dunk on Andrew Tate and talk about like what real masculinity is, not this like manosphere bullshit. We'll get into that. But then, interestingly enough, and here I'm going to give the punchline away up front. I binged hours of content on Andrew Tate, and he came away having impressed me a lot more than I expected. Now, that doesn't mean that I like him. It doesn't mean that I think his like worldview is good or anything like that. It's just that these things sometimes. What you hear sort of like from within an echo chamber, and let's be honest, I mean, we're in an echo chamber and everybody's in an echo chamber. This is something I've written about on the Substack. It's the epistemic divorce, right? Where everybody's kind of like hunkering down into their own little spheres and not really talking to each other as much, people outside of what they believe and everything. Anyway, when you're in one of those, you kind of get a view on people that are outside, right? Like, they're the enemy and everything is black and white, light switch brain. This guy sucks. This guy's base, whatever it is. Until you actually do the dive into like, what does Ben Shapiro actually believe? What does Andrew Tate actually believe? What do all these people, what do they actually believe? Things can be pretty low resolution. They could be pretty simplistic, right? Yeah. So, my feeling is that he's a very flawed character, but he's also it's a mixed bag. But we'll get into that. So basically, what we wanted to talk about today is what is it that men are there for? Like, what do we do? What is our role? There's a lot of talk about like, female empowerment today. There's a lot of talk about like, what women's roles and changing and everything in the mainstream. This is a huge topic of discussion. We wanted to talk a little bit about what's expected of the dads. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I recently, actually a few days ago, had an experience that made me really think about masculinity and kind of so I'll just tell you it's just a quick little story. So I like to go to the big box bookstores and see how much they're failing, because it makes me feel good, right? I like to go in and see how nobody's there. It's full of pause crap and their books have dust and how much it sucks, right? Yeah. So I go to a big box store to kind of, it's like I like consider it my victory lap, right? And so I go through, I look at these books, and I got a book that sells better than this, and fucking fat Dave Martell in his fucking attic is selling more books than you, pussy. You know what I mean? So I like to do this like little victory lap and like do that kind of thing, and then just bounce, never buy anything unless it's like I get like something. Once in a while you'll find like, I don't know, like a cool book in the bargain bin, or like a used book, or once in a while you'll find something cool for cheap. But they still think that they're going to sell these hardback copies of these gigantic novels from some feminist for like $48 or something. You know what I mean? Like anybody's going to buy that shit. But anyway, I walk into this big box bookstore, right? And I immediately get greeted. I didn't see. I just hear this voice, and it was this voice that goes, it says, "Afternoon, bro. this kind of forced voice to make it sound gruff, right? And my first reaction was I thought that there was a woman kind of like making fun of me. So this happens to me a lot. You know, if I run into a girl she's got jokes, like a kind of funny, jokey girl, or like a cashier, or like sometimes I'll have a female coworker that's got jokes and she likes to break balls. They do a Dave impression, right? They see me or whatever, they go, "What's up, bro?" Because I'm self-aware. I know that I'm a character. I know whatever. I'm a big personality. Everybody's got a Dave impression in real life. You know, it's just the way that it is. Like I'll go ring up my stuff at the grocery store, and then I'll have the girl, like she stands up, like she'll like straighten her back, and she'll be like, "Have a good day, bro," or like something like that. I like it. I think it's it's flattering because it means that I'm unique enough of a character.
You make an impression.
Yeah, so it doesn't bother me at all. But I hear that all the time, and that's immediately what I thought That's what I thought was going on, because it was clearly a performative impression kind of voice. And I look over, and it is a female to male tranny, just like standing there. And I must have had this like look of confusion or whatever, because it went from having its chest puffed out. First of all, it was like 5'6", maybe, like slump shoulders. It was a woman with but it was really like uncanny and gross looking. It's like in Lord of the Rings where they where they first like really meet Gollum, and they're like, I went from fearing and having hatred for this creature until I saw it.
Just disgust.
I felt pity and sorrow, right? Because its existence is pain, right? So I look upon this Gollum creature, this tranny creature, and I just felt this. I was like, I must have like looked right through it. And there's something that happens when you run into these trannies and you look at, you can tell that they're a tranny, right?
Yeah.
They and there's this like certain, like it went from having this like puffed out chest and this face to it like melting. It was really, Mike, this thing was, it was sad looking. It was like 5 foot nothing, balding. It's the perfect sphere head. It didn't have like a square man head. It had a sphere head. Had like a shitty like smut stash, like growing in facial hair that wasn't. It looked like what my facial hair looked like when I was like 12 years old. Yeah. It was fucked up. It was a fucked.
Wait, did you say it was like from like male to female or vice versa?
Female to male.
Yeah.
Female to male. I actually think those are the most pitiful, I believe. Because I don't even. It's just. They don't really have a place in the regime, right? Like they're not really as toxic as they don't have like their AIDS is not as contagious. You know what I mean? So they're kind of not celebrated. They're just pathetic. You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry. They transform themselves into like pathetic, like worse than like betas. They transform themselves into hideous little beta creatures.
They can only ever basically attain the like T levels of like a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah, it was just like sad. And I saw it, and immediately its voice cracked. It says, it's like I couldn't even like hear what it was saying because I'm just like looking at it, like it's just gaze. And I just remember like looking down at this creature standing right there. I didn't even notice it. And there was this like flash of just realization in my mind that this creature can never achieve natural masculinity. Masculinity is something that it's not something you can just go and get. It's not something you can buy. It's not something that you can get. You can mutilate your body and get transformed into via surgery. It's not something that you can just attain. It's something that you are gifted with. And what what's that called when they like have a fucking like reality comes back? It's like dysphoria or whatever. I gave this creature like its worst dysphoria ever. Right? It looked like it was like my presence shattered it. You know what I mean? Like, I said nothing.
I shouldn't laugh because it's sad, but
it's funny because they're fucking horrible, weird creatures. But there's a part of me that feels bad for them. Like this this girl, she was probably not a very attractive girl, but she was a normal girl. And she got fucking brainwashed and she cut her tits off. And now she's this fucking monster. And every guy that has like a little bit of tea and, you know, any guy like me, which I'm not that unique. I'm not like fucking Turbo Chad. I'm just, you know, Dave. Every Dave that walks in here and looks at this creature in the face, it like gets its world shattered every single day. You know what I mean? So I go on, and I didn't even like really finish my victory lap. I was just thinking about this. It's like that poor fucking creature can never be me. And you know, we all are get a little self-conscious about things. You know, I'm not as fit as I should be. There's, you know, I think about, oh man, I should do this so I could be more masculine and everything like that. And it just kind of just like dawned on me that I am just naturally masculine. You know what I mean? Because the gods gave me this, and this creature can never replicate it. And so I was, so it started to bring more ideas up. There's another guy I go to. I've been to the gym, but there's a guy at the gym that I used to run into a lot. He's a nice guy. He's kind of a shorter guy, but he was like really, really in good shape, like really a jacked dude, like fucking fitness gym rat monster. Right. But he was like, you know, he's like maybe 5'8" or 5'9". He had kind of like a little bit of a high pitched voice, speech impediment. But this guy had it going on. He was just like really nice and friendly. He was nothing abrasive about. He's like the kind of guy that's just like toxically nice. You know what I mean? Like always compliments everybody. Very talky, outgoing, just nice guy. Right. I liked him. Right. But he wasn't really the most masculine guy. But this guy had it going on, right? He's got money. He had a nice ass car. He had beautiful women in his life. He's just, you know, he's got it going on. But, you know, there aren't a lot of metrics that would say that he is that masculine, right? If you meet him, he kind of comes. It's not that he's gay, but he's got a little bit of a feminine vibe, at least in my view, right? But I'm thinking, it's like, who am I to judge this guy's masculinity? He's got money. He's got women. He's fucking well liked. He's, you know, all this kind of stuff. He's a young guy. He's not a dad yet, but he's got a positive look on becoming a father. You know what I mean? So it's like, who am I to say that this guy's not as masculine as me? You know what I mean? So I think that it's a complex question. I think that it's a lot of it is nature. And I think that it's not as cut and dry as the Manosphere gurus try to pay it out. I think the Manosphere is filth. I think that those people are of the highest order and should be boiled alive, to be honest.
Yeah, there's very little redeemable in them. The only thing from a like intellectual perspective, and I mean, you know, they're not reading Hegel. You know, they're not fucking doing like deep, like, you know, etymological dives into like prehistory or anything, you know, but they do have their framework. They have their worldview. They have their philosophy, right? It's not just a complete brain dead, just like, you know, idiot sphere or whatever like that. I mean, yeah, but they do have, you know, most of their concepts are like pretty ridiculous and stupid. What they are, I mean, fundamentally, all it is it's just like a self-help movement for, you know, people who call themselves betas that like just gives, you know, sells snake oil advice for how to trick women into pump and dump situations, right?
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is that they originally, you know, back in the day, back when it was like the alt-right days or whatever, and the, you know, what became the dissident right was kind of a big tent movement. They were kind of adjacent to it. Like Roosh was kind of hovering on the margins or whatever. He's obviously made a big change for himself since then. But this like sphere was kind of like adjacent to like our thing or whatever. But at the same time, it was always super fucking liberal, right? Because, I mean, you know, trying to glut yourself with sense gratification and get your nut off, and that's like your whole reason for existing, and that's it. That's very liberal. So, but they also had some, you know, this is the whole red pill thing or whatever, they would look at dating from an evo-psych perspective, right? From an evolutionary psychology perspective. Now, a lot of it was like basically quackery, but that's not a bad approach. It's just that they didn't get a lot of the particulars right. Most of it they got wrong. But one thing that I actually take from them that I think is kind of interesting is the idea of frame. I think frame is a good concept. It's a concept that we can actually apply to what we're doing. I mean, fundamentally, at the end of the day, at least rhetorically, in the, like, you know, convincing people in argument and everything, what we are trying to do is assume frame, right? Liberalism holds frame right now. What we're trying to do is basically displace that, right? And frame as a concept is actually not something that is unique to the Manosphere. It wasn't born there. They obviously came up with this name, but it has earlier antecedents in neurolinguistic programming, which is actually it's barking up the same tree, really, as the Manosphere, except for, you know, they're not trying to, like, just, you know, get sex all the time. But they're still trying to, like, hack human psychology, right? Yeah. But the basic idea of frame is that meaning is something that is contextual, right? So the example I like to give when explaining frame is that if you walk into the bathroom and you see this, like, thing on the wall, and it's this, like, big, like, porcelain bowl, you have an idea of what it is, right? Like, what is that for? Well, it's the thing that I piss in, right? It's a urinal. But if you walk into an art gallery and you see the same thing, you will automatically infer very different things about it if you see it in a display case in an art gallery. And this is, of course, I'm referring to the famous art piece by Marcel Duchamp. It's called Fountain, and it is the most influential modern artwork of all time, right? So this is what frame is. Now, I mean, that's obviously a shitty piece of art and kind of conceptually retarded or whatever, but that's basically the idea of frame, is that context matters. So, and, like, you know, without going down the whole rabbit hole of, like, what frame is, how we can apply it, and doing a deep dive on that concept, I think it's an important concept. I think it's a useful concept. I think it's something that we can apply to what we're doing, and I think it's something that we do have to bear in mind. You know, when we are debating people, when we're you know, having Twitter spats and things like that, frame absolutely matters. So it's important. It's important for us to kind of understand what that is, and what's going on, basically, in terms of holding frame and everything like that. So yeah, there's my hat tip to the Manosphere. I think that's basically, I'm tapped out now for nice things to say about them. For the most part, it is, like I say, it's just this, it's basically snake oil salesmen that, like, prey on vulnerable men who, you know, that can't get laid, and it's kind of pathetic. It's kind of pathetic all the way around, right? I don't have a lot of nice things to say about that, although, you know, it, like I said at the beginning of this stream, of this podcast, it's like, when you actually, like, look at some of the individual, like, the particular things that, like, a guy like Rollo Tomassi will say, I mean, some of it is okay, actually, and some of it makes sense, and some of it is kind of based, kind of moving in a base direction. Like, you know, the application of biology and the psychology of, you know, our deep evolutionary history to how men and women interact together, what it is that's going on, and the dating scene, in a relationship, in a marriage, and everything like that. Like, if you can't, I mean, you have to be able to apply these things. You have to be able to apply evolution and biology to that. Otherwise, you're just not going to have a real, like, you know, robust and full perspective on the matter. But, you know, then they go down all these sort of, like, they make a lot of assumptions, and then they make assumptions based on those assumptions, and then assumptions based on those assumptions of assumptions, and they very quickly run off the rails. This is something that I notice all the time, actually, and it's a bit of a side tangent, but it's a bit of a bugbear. It's something that I hate about philosophy in a lot of cases. Like the less empirical the philosopher and the more rationalistic, the more like a Spinoza is the worst for this. Because, I mean, what Spinoza basically does is he kind of like applies a mathematical proof sort of approach to his philosophy, right? Where he'll start out with axioms, and then he will like, take those axioms and like deduce things from that. And then these deductions, he will then use his axioms to deduce further things and everything like that. Problem with this is that basically one bad axiom will bust your entire fucking system, right?
Real quick, Mike. Could you explain what an axiom is? There's some dads that reached out and said that we oftentimes are using language that they're not familiar with.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so what an axiom is the assumption that you start with. It's the sort of like brute fact that cannot be justified any further. That is your beginning point for reasoning. It's like the premise of the argument. So
it's the trunk.
Yeah, it's where it just it's you cannot go any further, right? Your axiom is the bedrock of your understanding of reality. So an example of an axiom would be something like the world exists. I have a mind, like stuff that's completely just indisputable, right? But here's the thing, though, about axioms, is that axioms are rarely ever indisputable. They are even something like the world exists is like some guy at some stage thought that he needed to basically prove this, right? And this guy's name was Descartes, and he inaugurated modern philosophy, right? With the I think therefore I am sort of thing. Like, I exist is a pretty secure axiom, but he felt the need that he had to prove it. So basically, it's very hard to come up with an axiom that everyone is going to agree to. And the other aspect of this, and this is a side tangent within a side tangent, is that axioms are very much culturally loaded. So we receive our axioms, we are thrown into a world, we're embedded into a culture, and the culture just gives us the axioms. They're essentially like commands. Believe this. Take this for a fact, right? This is what we start out with. Like liberals, for example, they just take it for a fact that freedom is good, right? It would never occur to them to challenge that or question that, or a personal autonomy is good, or happiness is good. Maybe happiness isn't good. Like this is the kind of thing that would just not occur to people today, most of them anyway, because this is what our culture basically hands us and says, like, this is just a brute fact and you need to take that. That's our axioms.
Yeah, if you want to see them melt down, ask them why freedom is good. What if freedom is bad?
If you want to see the meltdown, just ask the question why about 3 times in a row, and almost every liberal will basically be reduced to like a sputtering infant at that point. It's that the worldview is extremely, extremely thin and superficial. But anyway, back to what I was saying before, is that, these deductive, rationalistic, ground up sort of foundationalist philosophers that take assumptions like Spinoza does, or another one, of course, it would be something like Plato. I don't want to shit on Plato too much. That gets old, but he's another one, right? So these sort of like rationalistic philosophers that basically do this like deductive ground up deduction of reality. I find that stuff to be very, very tiring. And not because I don't understand it. I just find it to be very superficial and very implausible. A lot of times their shit just basically like it doesn't check out, right? Yeah. And part of the reason is because if you have, if your axioms are wrong, then your whole system is worth nothing. So anyway, to tie it again back to the manosphere and try not to lose the thread of where this started. The manosphere does this too. You know, like I once read a book where it was basically trying to prove that like Atlantis was real. Like a Chariots of the Gods type like tier book. And it was basically like what it made this move over and over again where it would basically say, okay, so here's like something that is like mainstream science rejects, and here's the reasons why it might be true. And then it would take that might be true. And when I say might, I mean like there's a 10% chance at the best that this is true. And it would just take that as a foundational assumption and then go forward in the next chapter with some other like crazy, like bullshit theory. And then it would take the result of that theory, and then even that like, you know, theory would be like 10%, you know, possibility on top of this 10% possibility. And it would just go through chapter after chapter of that. And like, if you understand anything about probability, it's like, you know, within about 6 chapters, you're basically like approaching 0% like possibility. And that's granting, you know, at the best, there's like a 10% chance that this like wacky theory is right. Anyway, this is exactly what the manosphere kind of does, right? They have very, very tenuous assumptions about human nature, about what motivates people, about who we are, about like the differences between men and women and everything like that. Like very often I find that they just sort of like project their own kind of like incel ambitions and motivations onto everybody else, as though nobody else can like just love unconditionally. Everyone else just wants to have sex, and that there's nothing sort of beyond that or whatever. And so anyway, I find it to be a very superficial worldview. I find it to be very, very unconvincing. It's sort of like it's trying hard to do something that is like it's aiming high, right? Like it wants to explain how humans interact on the basis of biology and have a like sort of complete explanation of that, at least in terms of men and women. But it fails so utterly because of that, because like these guys are just fucking amateurs, right? They're just pickup artists that take what like works in the club sometimes. You know, if you can get a girl to talk to you for 5 minutes before you offer her some cocaine and then go home and you know, take her to bed or whatever, and then they sort of like they take that and then they generalize that across all human experience, and like this is how men and women interact. It's not a very good it's not a very useful worldview. And I mean, obviously I've never put any of the shit into practice or whatever, but somehow I very much doubt that like this pickup, you know, this advice works basically on like, you know, how to get women and everything. Now, I basically assumed that Andrew Tate was just another one of these guys or whatever. Now he's doing something quite a bit different. Well, a little bit different anyway. But anyway, before I go into Andrew Tate, Dave, did you want to weigh in on the manosphere?
Yeah, so you're absolutely right with the how they take something that is pretty strong. For example, some of their critiques of modern dating, some of their critiques and their observations of, you know, the effects feminism has had on society are true, right? They're true. They're good. You know, their criticism of the Duluth model of your divorce courts, how men are treated in family court with child support, all of this kind of stuff that they put their sights on, and they say these things in society are wrong. That's where they're right. And then from there, they start building wacky stuff, right? You have, it's like the flat earthers, right? When the flat earthers found out that the earth is not a perfect sphere, it is a slight spheroid, they're like, well, it's not a perfect sphere, so therefore it must be flat. And then they start cooking up all kinds of crazy shit. Now you got people walking around that believe in the firmament, which is kind of, part of me thinks that's kind of based because I hate science so bad. And it's like, I love magical worldviews and I love people that believe wild shit, but it's not true. It's really, you know, you can literally just like look at a telescope and see the moon. It's not part of the firmament. You know what I mean? It's just the way that it is. But what the Manosphere does, they do this exact same thing, right? And here's the deal: is that they are the opposite end of the great grift, right? Right now, they're with young men. There's what I call this the sphere of the great grift. If they go left ways, you have OnlyFans and feminism preying on them and taking their money. If they go right, and this isn't political, these are just directions. They go right, they get the Manosphere, and those a lot of these times these guys are fucking degenerates. Like that beard guy, the guy with the beard that turned out to be a cuck. Some other guy turned out to be like a fucking homo. And like these guys always check their hard drives. Like these Manosphere gurus check their fucking hard drives. Look what they're doing. And a lot of times these guys are fucking hedonists and degenerates and perverts. But anyway, they go right and they're like, don't listen to those other guys. We're going to enlighten you and make you a man and all this kind of stuff for fucking, $49.99 a month. You know what I mean? Buy our books. I'm about buying books, but I'm not selling you enlightenment. I'm entertaining you, right? So you should buy books, just not their books. The bottom line is that young men can't there's like this entire sphere, like this entire dome, and everybody in the dome, no matter which direction you go, is there to scam young men and take their money and give them an illusion that is supposed to be filling the hole that is left over from kind of the deracination of modern liberal society. The machine has forced them into surrogate activities that they still desire to know how to fill, but they don't know how. You look all around, but you don't know where to start. Can't find the key to pick the lock on your heart, right? This is what they're going through. So when they go out, they go on the internet. You got these whores on OnlyFans that are like, come watch me, daddy. I'll give you attention, blah, 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 blah. And then they take their money. And then you got these guys in the Manosphere that do the same thing, except on the other side. These are literally just two sides. They're just like two heads of the liberal, capitalist, parasitic hydra that has created markets in order to fulfill needs, in order to profitize off of young men that have been reduced down to economic units. In this current system, human beings are not considered spiritual creatures. They're considered economic units. And economic units are designed for labor, and they're designed to generate profit. And this is exactly how they're being treated. So no wonder suicide is through the roof. No wonder all of the solutions that the normie society has produced are all just fucking parasitic. You know what I mean? They're all just in there to make money. Like, make no bones about it. You guys should read with the tranny thing. Make sure you guys go read from Antelope Hill. There's this book called The Trans-Industrial Complex. It's a gigantic book. It exhaustively covers the entire thing, but I described it as it's like being drugged through an Olympic-sized swimming pool full of broken light bulbs. It literally
it's just pure rage fuel, isn't it?
But what it outlines is it is not an ideological thing. It is purely a capitalist fucking exploitive thing. It is what are they called? The cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery thing. The bottom line is these people, they don't insurance doesn't cover them. They never covered them in the past. Insurance won't cover a nose job or a tit job for you. But now they figured out a scheme in which the government and insurance companies will cover plastic surgery, and that is transition surgery. And also pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies are making huge money off of these hormone pills, which are extremely cheap to make. There's the jokes online about bathtub troonshine. This stuff is so cheap and easy to make that people can make it at home. Like it's not these hormone pills are cheap as shit to make, and they make a fortune off of them. Literally, like everybody is cashing in on this. This is the tranny movement is a cash cow for the corporations. The ideology is just for the plebs to trick them into doing it. You know what I mean? So anyway. And I also think that some of the stuff going the other way is to draw more attention to it, right? To create reaction, because this is a common marketing ploy of shitty movie companies. How many shitty movie companies have put out these movies and like purposely marketed them as woke when they're not really woke, just to piss off all the conservatives so they get get a hard on about it and draw all this attention to this movie that they know is going to be shitty, so that people will go see it. It's literally like a bait and switch on both sides. Like
they don't care if guys like it or if they hate watch it.
They just want people to see it, to pay money, throw money into it. And I think this is the same thing with the tranny shit. Well, anyway, going back to the Manosphere. The Manosphere is totally and entirely a fucking grift. And while they kind of start with some of their points, like I mentioned, the Duluth model is fucking hideous. It's hideous feminist horse shit. And let's be real here. A lot of people, they get light switch brain. So when you criticize Manosphere or men go their own way, like, whoa, well, feminism, blah, blah. Here's the deal with feminism is feminism is forever a hideous, monstrous, parasitic, anti-folk. And I'm just going to say, I talk like this, but it is a Jewish ideology. It is a fucking cancer. It is a spiritual STD. And I'll be honest with you, there is in like the recent couple years, we have had like this influx of like racist radical feminists into our spheres, like Nazi feminists or something. Fucking kick them out. The fact that people are like associating with these feminists is just absolutely bizarre. Really bizarre. So anyway, bottom line is men go their own way and Manosphere are identical. They literally have the exact same arguments. It's just going the other way. It is nothing different. It is fucking liberalism.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. And you can kind of tell that it's you can kind of tell that it's a dead end because none of these guys have any kids. Right, like I think one of them, the only one that I'm aware of that has any kids is that Rollo Tomasi guy, and he's got like one kid, and that's it, right?
Oh, I'm not the big bear guy, the big bear guy.
Jack, what's his name?
No. He used to be a comedian.
Oh, Donovan or whatever. Is it Jack Donovan?
He's a. What the fuck is his name? Carl Benjamin. Is that his name? No, that's fucking.
No, that's Sargon.
That's Sargon. No, I can't remember his fucking name. He's a big bear. He has a big bear club. He used to be friends with Joe Rogan. He's a big tall guy. He's kind of crazy. What the fuck is his name? He's got a bunch of kids, and he's kind of like Manosphere, but he's like a little bit of a different animal.
All right, yeah, but by and large, I mean, it's a completely sterile movement, completely sterile worldview. It's telling you not to have kids because it's a trap, and you'll get your money taken from you and all this shit. Like, it's still utilitarian bug man worldview, where the only thing that you live for is pleasure. It's the ethic of the chronic masturbator, right? This is what these people stand for, right? Just getting their nut off, and that's it. Like, and if you put it to them like that, they probably just be like, yeah. I mean, that's what I want to do, right? Like, what else do you want to do, right? And I mean, there's nothing there. Like, it's not going to last. It's not the kind of movement that will ever make any real change. I mean, oh, okay, all right, yeah. So I thought that guy was sort of like hooked up with Alex Jones or something, kind of. Anyway, I could be wrong. I don't really follow that scene too closely.
I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Dave, you're absolutely right about the idea that, like, but they're not. These guys are not just like completely wrong about everything, right? There is a half truth to a lot of what they say. So. Before I kind of like go into like Andrew Tate or whatever, one of the things that he says is that he's pro absentee dad. And I mean, this is like a monstrous take, right? But what he says is that a father who's around sometimes, but who's impactful, is better than a father who's around all the time, but who's soft. And in his view, men who are around all the time, who want to be around their kids all the time, they probably are. They start out as, and then they even tend to become even more soft and domesticated and deficient in testosterone. And this is his argument, basically, that that men who want that, men who do that, both are and will become even more low T and everything, and the woman will want them less because there's no mystery to the relationship. It's the opposite of absence. It's absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? And what he says is that you could be a father whom your son wants to emulate without being around all the time. And now I hate what he's saying here, but there is a kind of half truth to it. Let's be honest. Historically, men have been absent a lot of the time from their families, like going all the way back to, the Stone Age. Men have gone to war. Like men have been, men of affairs. They've been doing things outside of the home. I mean, the place of the man is outside of the home, right? Like this is the traditional view anyway. This is what we have inherited from the beginning of time forward. I mean, for fuck's sake, the Odyssey is about a father who misses his son's entire life. But for all that, Telemachus, he still idolizes his father. He's looking for him and everything like that. So I will grant Andrew Tate I will go some of the way with him on that. I understand that it's half true. This is the problem. It's half true, right? But the other half is that you need to be around enough. I mean, Odyssey aside, you need to be around enough and to make the time you do have with your kids really, really count, right? And I think that when people say stuff like, you don't need to be around your kids to be a good dad, you don't need to be around all the time anyway to be a good dad, I think what most of them are sort of like what's going on beneath the surface is that I just don't want to be around my kids. You know what I mean?
Or
I'd rather be out. Yeah, exactly. Or they're coping about, just not having them or whatever. I don't know whatever it is. I think that there's something not quite on the level, right? Like, what you see is not exactly what you get. Now, so, I mean, so I absolutely agree that like this Manosphere and Manosphere adjacent scene, a lot of times there's a half truth to it that ends up becoming kind of corrosive because it's only half true and it leaves out something important. But so what Andrew Tate is all about, basically, I mean, this guy is like, he's like a multi-millionaire who basically started out, he started out as a kickboxer, but then retired to more or less run his own like version of like an OnlyFans type site, right? So it's not exactly the most on the level way to make your money and everything, but
I think he owns a casino too.
Yeah, he does now. Yeah, he owns casinos and everything like that. But I mean, it's not human trafficking. It's not like child molestation. I mean, there's worse things in the world, but it's not. I wouldn't put that. I mean, the Buddhists would not say that that's right. What do they call it? Like right living or like right profession. Action. Yeah, exactly. It's not the right way to make your money or whatever. But the thing is, there is something half true about Andrew Tate that I think is actually a little bit deeper and a little bit more naked and open and to be honest, a little bit refreshing. That's not quite there in a lot of these like Manosphere gurus, which is that he just like openly says, look, I'm out here to fuck bitches, get money, and to get power. Right? I want power and I've got it, right? I've done all this stuff, made all this money. I've made all these moves, all these like Mafia Don moves to like get where I am and everything. He's obviously in a pickle right now, but up until, just recently, he was doing pretty well for himself. He had amassed quite a bit of power. He was starting to become, I think, genuinely a threat to the system with what he was saying about men and male empowerment and how men need to basically stand up for themselves and stop being feminized and all of this shit. And there is something true. There's a half truth to that, right? We talk about this, Dave and I. We talk about this when we say, look, all the like talky talk, all of the like philosophy, all of the debate, all of the ideology in the world is great, but it doesn't mean fuck all if you don't have resources, if you don't have a manor bund, if you don't have some sort of power that you can use to deploy it in the world, right? It's so, and our ancestors believed this going all the way back. They believed that wealth was good. They believed that power was virtuous. They believed that success was the mark of the favor of the gods. They believed all of this shit, right? Like, I mean, they would not be totally, they would look at an Andrew Tate, and there's some things about him that they would find grotesque and ugly, but there's some things that they would find about him that are actually far more virtuous than the vast majority of people. And, you know, just the fact of being able to wield that much influence and everything, there's something there. And here's the thing about him is that he really exploded over the last couple of years. Like, you know, there was a point where his follower count was going up by like 100,000, like on YouTube was going up by like 100,000 subscribers a month. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this was happening, I think it was happening during and because of the COVID shit. Basically, the thing about Andrew Tate that I think is genuinely good and like I 100% agree with is his COVID takes, right? Where he was just basically saying like, look, this is all bullshit. It's not a real thing. You need to stand up for yourself. The only reason why this is being allowed to happen is because you're weak and you're a pussy, basically. You need to stand up. You need to walk into that store and say, I'm not wearing a mask. And when they say, well, you have to wear a mask, you say, okay, well, you got to give me one. And then when they give you one, you say, okay, fine, I'm going to wear it all over my ear. And then they say, okay, well, no, you've got to wear it over your face. You say, okay, fine, I'll put it over my chin. And then they say, if you keep fucking around, we're going to call the cops. And they say, okay, well, call the fucking cops. Do it. Go ahead and do it. And then, 10 minutes later, you bounce before the cops get there. I mean, if everybody did that, okay, not everybody. If like 5% of men did that, the shit would have come to a screeching fucking halt within weeks. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of thing that he's saying is that men have been emasculated, men have been domesticated, they've been mollified and soft and enervated. They're basically faggots. So do something about it. Go to the gym, improve yourself, read a book, so on and so forth, and all of this, right? This guy is a great, great motivational speaker. When you listen to him, you get fired up. You really do. There's something there, right? It's not perfect. The worldview is radically deficient in some very important ways, but he is a very, very motivated person, a high energy guy, and I think that his takes on masculinity, at least as far as standing up for yourself and standing up against, standing up for what you believe in, standing up for what you're all about. That stuff is very, very true. It's just that there is more to it than that. There's some things that he's really, really missing. But I do think, I went into this, doing all this research. I'm working on a book now. I'm doing the formatting for like the next Imperium book. It's taken a long time, so I had a lot of time to binge his videos and just listen. I was going into this thinking I was going to hate every second of it. I thought that I was just basically going to disagree with everything. But I found myself disagreeing with only about half of what he says. Some of what he says is spot on, but some of what he says is absolutely not. So, this is the thing. This is what I was saying at the beginning is that, when we our worldview in some ways is kind of received from like what other people tell us, right? People that we trust, people in the sphere, people that believe the same shit as us. In some sense, we kind of take that in. We kind of imbibe that, through the environment. And if you don't actually look, if you don't look into this stuff, sometimes you can miss some pretty important things. And sometimes you can actually, I wrote my, the most recent Substack article that I wrote was a review of this book that is about an Alaskan, half native Alaskan trapper lived about 100 years ago. And this is a very masculine man, a very traditionally masculine man, lived off the land, very impressive guy. And I compared Andrew Tate to him very unfavorably. And I'll be honest, I think that I kind of got that a little bit wrong in some ways. You know, like I say, he's not perfect. We'll go into reasons why. But, you know, you've got to look, right? You've got to actually engage with what people actually think and what they actually say before you form your opinions. And to be honest, I think, you know, what I did was I basically, you know, I jumped the gun there on him a little bit anyway. A lot of what I've got out of him just sort of imbibed from the scene turned out to be true, but there's a lot more good stuff than I thought there was, basically.
Yeah. Here's the thing with social media is that a lot of these guys that are like social media savvy and everything, they put their spiciest, most ridiculous things they say out there to be put on YouTube Shorts or TikTok or whatever to garner the most attention as possible. And then you go in to like listen to what they say, and then what they're actually saying, the complete picture is more reasonable. It's sort of the opposite of what we do, right? What we do is we put our reasonable softer takes out there, and then behind closed doors we say our spicy stuff, right? I mean, it's sort of not everybody, but that's sort of the general. So when we in our spheres look at, and there's these like ridiculous spicy takes going on these YouTube Shorts, we assume that what they're saying behind closed doors is even more ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
That, at least I do anyways. So here's the deal with Andrew Tate is I have a friend that pirated his Hustler University shit, right? And I actually sat down and watched it. It's behind a paywall. It's like he charges a ridiculous amount of money for it. So I sat down and watched it. And I'll tell you what, it's actually pretty damn good. I'll be honest.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's actually pretty damn good. He goes, he literally, it's him sitting there with a dry erase board and a marker, and he goes point by point by point. He doesn't mince words, no talky talk. He says, dude, this is how you do this. This is how you make money. This is how you make more money. Focus on this. Forget about this, blah, 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 blah. And it's really good advice, actually. And it's actually stuff that I say as well. You know what I mean?
I'm not surprised, to be honest. Like, you know, I get that vibe from him. I mean, the guy has $365 million, right?
You don't get $365 million by being a loser.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the stuff that he says is like it's probably because I actually looked up his MBTI, and I don't really believe all that much into it, but I like to, when I really do a deep dive into somebody, I look up their MBTI and I look up their Jyotish and their horoscope, and like I like to like look at like that kind of shit too. I actually do a real deep dive when I look into somebody. So Andrew Tate actually is probably a pretty close MBTI to me. I'm an ESTP. He's either an ESTP or an ESTJ or F, or I can't remember which one. I get them all mixed up because I'm a retard. But he's like a similar type as me. So a lot of his like, he cuts down to basic logic, how things are. He questions little sayings that go, and I do this too, you know, little like, why do we say that? What does that even mean? What good does that do? And the one thing that he said that I really liked when he's talking about business is he goes, there's this saying that goes around. He goes, I find that a lot of these sayings are old wives' tales. A lot of times they're just bullshit that we just learn and we just repeat because we're fucking parrots. Is you have to choose between good, fast, and cheap. And he says, I call horse shit. I want everything to be good, fast, and cheap. He goes, most people are fucking slow. Most people are lazy. He's like, I want good, cheap stuff now. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to go to somebody else. And he's right. You know, you can find somebody that will do all three things. And he says, that is horse shit, and sayings like that should all be questioned. You should not wait. He's like, fuck analysis paralysis. Don't even worry about it. Don't plan ahead. Jump right in and figure it out from there. You know, I actually had a boss a long time ago who said something very similar. His name was Jeff, and he literally started a business. His dad was a wealthy guy. His dad loaned him like 20 grand, and he literally just built this gigantic fucking business, had no idea what he was doing, and like actually turned it into a really profitable thing. He did very well for himself. And the one thing that he said to me was, what you have to do is just like jump in and lie and fake it till you make it. Like if you're trying to do business with somebody, call them and like talk to them. And if they say, do you have this? Do you do this? Blah, 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 blah. Say yes, write it down, and then hang up and go look up what the fuck it is. And then teach it to yourself. And then just fake it till you make it. He's like, you have to just do. He's like, you can't worry about planning and all this stuff. And this is something that I say, analysis paralysis is horseshit. But anyway, going back to it, Andrew Tate it actually has some really good practical business advice. So he's not all evil. Now his stuff on masculinity, as Mike has put out, is some of the fundamentals. If you truly listen to him, he says, stop being a pussy, stop watching porn and jerking off. He's like, go make money, go work hard, get out of your head and focus on praxis and make it happen and become a force in the world. These are objectively good things. Now, what the problem with him and all Manosphere is, as Mike said earlier, they go off the rails completely. They do this like philosophy thing, and I think part of it is his drive to continue to become spicier and spicier, to get more attention on social media, to keep growing their, because they are predatory opportunists, they are capitalists, so they want to just keep making profits. They're addicted to this. It gets them high, so they want to keep getting spicier and spicier. And this addiction to getting spicier and spicier and building presumptions on presumptions on presumptions is, it just turns into a big circle jerk and drinking your own farts until you start coming out with kooky, absolutely monstrous against yourself. You go full circle. You like literally circle jerk yourself around a horseshoe into like going against what you're originally about, like this that Rollo Tomasi character. Like I'll be honest, Rollo Tomasi is actually, he's a supporter of the pulp scene, and he talks about tabletop games and heavy metal, and he's actually a supportive of some cultural things that I like. But he recently came out with this tweet that men should what's that called when you get snipped? The fucking
get the vasectomy.
Yeah, get a vasectomy and never get married and just focus on money and fucking. It's like, what did you?
He got dogpiled for that, and I think he tried to walk it back by being like, it's satire. You know, the last refuge for every fucking idiot that ran his mouth and got fucking clocked for it. Something like that, anyway.
Just admit that you were huffing your own farts, dude. Just be like, man, I was in this place. I was thinking, I completely, I think that, this doesn't happen in other places. But I think among us folks, the guys that are like kind of right leaning, if one of the guys come out and like fucking apologize and explain why you're wrong, I think people would be like, okay, it's all good. You know what I mean? So walking back and doubling down and doing all this it's just retarded. But anyway, what that is literally the opposite of what masculinity truly is. Going back to my original story about what gets bestowed upon you as a man, and also my story about the guy that I knew at the gym that's not exactly turbo giga chad alpha male. He's a beta, but he's kind of jacked, and he gets lots of girls, and he's got a good life, and he's a nice guy, and he's happy, and he's easy to get along with, and he's a smart guy, and he has a good life. But he's kind of a beta male. I think number one, it is this comes out of the manosphere too. This alpha, sigma, beta. First of all, sigma male is horse shit. It's absolutely the sigma.
Yeah, that
male,
doesn't exist. That's not a thing.
In nature, the sigma male is the diseased, problematic, fucked up male that gets kicked out of the pack. He is the male that his genetics are not good enough to exist within the hierarchy. So to be a sigma male, to say I'm a sigma male, is to admit that you are too defective to be among other males. Your value as a male is within the pecking order of males. And the problem is that beta male has become an insult, when in actuality the beta male is one of the most important roles in male hierarchy. Right, the beta male is the facilitator. He's the number two. He's the consigliere. Right, he's the guy that would you call like when you're watching Sopranos, would you say that Silvio Dante is a cuck or a bitch or not value? The bottom line is the alpha male cannot function in the hierarchy without his facilitators and his support. Everybody wants because of this gay modern like huff and puff circle jerk tree that is with the manosphere. Everybody wants to LARP as the alpha male, and if they can't LARP as the alpha male, they want to be the sigma male. There's no shame in being the beta male. None. You're not a little bitch. The alpha male isn't gonna fuck you in the ass. You're not a piece of shit. You are the number 2. You are a valued contributor. Without you, the hierarchy of men falls apart.
Well, ironically, it actually is anti-hierarchy to think of there's only one alpha and then like a fuckload of betas. That's it, right? Like as though there are no other gradations than that, as though there's nobody below, the deputy of the king or whatever, like his lords and vassals or whatever. It's just like it's completely, egalitarian, right? It's like there's like one guy that runs the show and then everybody else is like equally beta. No, that's not how it works, right? There is a hierarchy. There's a gradation of authority that like runs all the way down the chain to this like supposed sigma male that's just this like diseased fucking outcast or whatever. So yeah, that's a very, very good point. I mean, maybe like using this beta, like alpha beta framework needs to be kind of jettisoned. You know what I mean? Because it's not really truthful. So, but yeah, I mean, Tate himself, like he is like this total alpha personality. And I mean, I want to sort of like, we'll kind of like wrap up like dunking on these guys and then move on to like what real masculinity actually is and like the problems with like, why men are the way they are today and everything. But I want to say this about Andrew Tate. Here's the problem with him. I've already said some nice things about him. Here's the fundamental problem with him is that his problem is the same problem that every sultan and satrap and polygamous society has wrestled with forever. Andrew Tate is an individual, and he thinks like an individual. I watched an interview with him with Piers Morgan, whom, I mean, he's not our guy by any stretch, but he really, really put the heat on Andrew Tate. And he got him to admit some like wacky shit, basically. He got him to admit that it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be trans. And over and over and over again in this interview, when his worldview was put on under some real scrutiny by like, I mean, Piers Morgan is not our guy, but he's a professional. He knows what he's doing. He basically got Andrew Tate to like continually retreat back to the idea of the sovereign individual, right? Like, why is it that it's okay for you to have lots of wives, but like for none of your bitches to like fuck any other guys or whatever. And basically, like throughout this entire interview, it's I think the first interview he did with him, because they did two. He just kept going back to this idea of the sovereign individual. Look, fuck the sovereign individual. That's not how life works. That's not how societies work. Nobody built anything ever on the sovereign individual, right? But Andrew Tate is an individual and he thinks like an individual. However much he claims to have a brotherhood, I know he has this thing, I think it's called the War Room or something like that. It's like supposedly his like manor bund or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, he's a fucking individual, right? Like that's how he thinks. He has no like genuine focusness in him. But he's a polygamist, right? Like he's even like he was Christian and he converted to Islam. And I can find no other reason for this that other than the fact that Islam allows him to have more than one wife, right? And Christianity was going to tell him not to, basically. Yeah. So he's a polygamist. And the thing about polygamy, this is my critique of his worldview, basically, is the worldview of the polygamist. Polygamy is eugenic. It is because, the alpha, well, I'll go into it, but polygamy is eugenic but it is what we might call centrifugal. It pushes men away from each other. It has an atomizing effect. Basically, if you see a polygamous society, like, say, the Mongols, for example, the Mongols were based as fuck, and they were impressive, and they did some very impressive things, but their empire did not last. Polygamous societies never fucking last. And the reason why is because the so-called beta male, which is basically everybody sort of below the elite level, gets no bitches. And they have every reason to rebel. So that is the problem with polygamy fundamentally. Monogamy, on the other hand, is dysgenic, but it is the opposite. It's centripetal. It pushes men together, right? Because the men have to band together basically to share the spoils. But over a long enough period of time, like, I'm pro-monogamy and everything like that, but I'll be honest with you, it is dysgenic over a long enough period of time. Polygamy rewards Chad, but it pisses off let's just call him the beta male. Forgive me the use of that term. What stake does the beta male have in society? Nothing, right? He's got no reproductive advantage. He's got nothing. Basically, he gets to live. He's a slave. Society fractures, and eventually, this man with no women, he eventually has his revenge. That's polygamy. Monogamy, on the other hand, rewards the man who otherwise would not, like the women would not choose him. And all civilization every civilization has only ever been built atop a heaving, churning ocean of that guy's energy, right? But because it rewards the average guy to below average over a long enough time, it does erode the race, basically. This society, this cycle is as much an iron law as, Duttons or strong men make for good times and so on and so forth. And the problem with Andrew Tate is this: he's firmly on the polygamy side, which is, again, that's why he converted to Islam. So he is a breath of fresh air in a world that has been mollified and enervated by, let's just call it the Tyrrhic run amok, right? Like the trad gone way, way too far. We live in a world of complete and utter tierism, of utter conventionality. The bug new male is utterly tame and conventional. So Andrew Tate makes sense right now. He poses an important alternative. But let's not pretend that he represents anything eternal, right? You can't found a society on a million Andrew Tates. This is basically the trad objection to him. And let's be honest, it's not wrong, right? Mm-hmm. However, the trad who, and I'm talking even about trads on our side too, has to understand that Tate is an Odinic figure. And occasionally you do need that. Right, so he's not perfect. He doesn't really have a worldview. Like, his worldview is fairly thin when you drill down to the bedrock of it. But he's absolutely necessary, right? And I mean, even like the trads, I'm talking about guys, not even our guys. I'm talking about guys like Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro, these guys who are just sort of like milquetoast religious or whatever. They kind of their take is, I think, just as thin as his is, right? Like Andrew Tate says, fuck bitches, get money. This is what's going to make you happy. This is what's going to get your dick wet, right? They say, have a wife and kids, and this is what's going to make you happy. This is what, it's the same argument, basically. Both of them fundamentally miss the point. The point is not happiness. The point is not having a life of pleasure. The point is being a fucking man, right? And on this count, the trads are right. Like, that is what being a man is. It's having a wife and kids. It's being, a man in your community that people can look up to. But they say, you need to be that guy so you can get happiness and fulfillment. For them, the axiom is the same as Andrew Tate. It's hedonism, it's happiness, it's utility. Basically, it's pleasure. So, I mean, I say, and I think that, you know, this is more the focus take. I say, be a man or else you're a fucking worm, right? For me, the axiom is masculinity, going back to the axiom thing. It's not justified by anything outside of itself. That is the brute fact from which the reasoning starts. Be a fucking man, right? And Tate's conception of what a man is not very impressive at all. I mean, when you get down to it, if it's all about fuck bitches get money because it's pleasure, it's closer to a dog licking its balls than the trad conception, right? There's a wider discussion to be had here about what you take as being sort of axiomatic or whatever, but I think I'll table that digression for now. I just think that the two of them, the two sides that are basically like, here's how you get pleasure, here's how you're happy. It's like, it's not about fucking happiness. That if that's what your worldview is about, then you've already lost, right? It's about having a purpose. What is Andrew Tate's purpose? Well, it seems just to be about pleasure. What is the trad's purpose? Well, let's be honest. Their purpose is either to serve Christ or to be, to be a man of his like ancestral faith or whatever it is. So there is that, and that's certainly better. But a lot of times, religion gets sold as a it's like an instrumental thing that you use to have a good life. That's not what it's about at all. It is its own thing. It's justified by itself. There is no other thing that it's supposed to do. Other things are to be justified in terms of that, not the other way around. Anyway, I'm sorry, Dave. I've been ranting here.
No, you're absolutely correct. It's what was I gonna say? So the thing is with Andrew Tate in the Manosphere, it's like I said, they give this very black and white under both sides of the coin, the trad and the I guess we could call it the Odinic. I really love your take there, that it's not one side is right. It is this cycle. It's this nuance, and in different times both have function. Right. This is a really good take, and this is what I was going to talk about. Remember at the beginning, I told the story about the guy that I knew at the gym. This guy might never get married. He might not be built for marriage. That doesn't mean he's less of a man. Masculinity is a dynamic thing. It's not a black and white thing. Like Andrew Tate, fuck bitches, get money. This is being a man. Or like the trads, like get married and have kids and have a homestead, and that's being a man. Both can be a man. Masculinity is dynamic. It fulfills a purpose in the time that it exists, and it also has different stages throughout your life. You know what I mean? You could be a fuck bitches get money guy, and then you meet a woman and you get married and you become a patriarch, and that's your final form. And that is the patriarch is the final form of masculinity. That is the highest form, is to become the patriarch. Who is, like, when you think of like the highest form of man, what is it? The king. And who is the king? The king is the patriarch of the nation. He's the father, the sire of a whole nation.
That's right.
What justifies his rulership is that he has lineage from even greater sires, right? This is to be the dad is the king of men, right? So this idea of just like fuck bitches get money, or to go just like run off into woods and start a homestead, like both of these can be masculine, but at the end of the day, masculinity exists within a hierarchy, within an order. And there are different dynamics of the masculine form must work in cooperation to create a true monolith, right? You could look at the mafia, you could look at the military, you could look at tribalism, you could look at clans, you could look at whatever. You have big boss man at the top, and he's the most charismatic. He's generally the biggest. He is the biggest thing. He's the guy that goes up and everybody loves and everybody looks up to, and everybody goes to him for counsel. But this guy is generally bad at administrative things. Yeah. He needs guys that are good, that are savvy at paying attention to details, and are good at facilitating, and are good at giving advice, and have nuanced takes, and are more introverted kind of thing. He needs those guys around him. And then below them, they need generals. They need captains. They need guys that are like, yeah, whatever you say, boss, I'm going to do it. I'll do it the best way. The guys that are dependable and loyal and go out and kick. This guy is necessary too. And below him, you need guys that are kind of like, I don't want to call them serfs, because a lot of times there's emotion, but the serf, the I don't want to say thrall at all. Let's say the carls, the local lords, or the laborers, or the men of the heath. The men of the heath are as important too, right? There's an entire hierarchy of men, top to bottom, that when you just use this modern gay manosphere, or you're beta or you're a bitch thing, this can't function. And you need this, because without this, you don't have purpose. Without this, men in society don't have purpose, and men in society don't have purpose, which is why they go seeking out this horse shit. They go seeking out the manosphere, and they go get inundated and initiated into the religion, the cult of the manosphere, which is where all women are whores. You will never find happiness in marriage. You must exist within the capitalist system and become a cutthroat businessman, and you must pump and dump as many whores as possible, and this will make you happy. And guess what? There's a select few of men that does make them happy. Most men, that does not make them happy. That makes them fucking miserable. Because here's the deal. There is a certain archetype. There's a certain personality type that is just that is like a pig in shit, just pumping and dumping and making money. But most men need something deeper. They need more meaningful existence. They need the love of a woman. They need intimacy. They need reciprocation between their wife and themselves. They want to be around their children. And with Andrew Tate's take about being an absent father, a lot of this time, this is a cope. And I'm not saying, and I say this a lot, is that sometimes cope is a necessary thing, is a healthy thing. Because in modern society, a lot of times jobs and careers suck all of your time, and you feel guilty about not being around your kids enough. So you adopt these copes in order to deal with that. And it's like having a beer or smoking a little weed or something to deal with a stressful period. It's the same thing. And sometimes this is a healthy, necessary thing you have to do to get through temporary struggle and temporary stress. The end of the day, most men in history were farmers. Most men in history, even noblemen, spent most of their time at their estates. Most men in history spent most of their time around their children. And that's the end of, when men, even in tribal times, you would go hunting once in a while and you would be gone for a long time. And then you would come down and you would hang out with your family most of the time. Winter would come and you would hang out with your family all of winter. So this idea that of the absent father is really a modern thing. It is something that is afforded to guys like Andrew Tate through capitalism, because in times before capitalism, before industrialization, you had winters, you had long periods of rain, you had most of your time was spent with your wife and children. You weren't an absent father until there was cars, right? Until there was wall-to-wall carpets and climate control and air conditioning and heating and insulation and buildings that can shield you from the elements and so on and so forth. You spent most of your time with your family, and that's what you're wired to really do, except for certain periods of time where you go off. So a lot of the axioms that Andrew Tate builds from, and guys like Andrew Tate build from, is literally post-industrial society, modern capitalist shit, right? They build from this idea that, this modern industrial capitalist society is the way things are and the way it's supposed to be. So let's build our ideology off of that. Yeah. And a lot of these guys, they reject this idea that they are an ideology. Rollo Tomasi, for example, calls his thing a praxeology. And some of that is correct. Some of his stuff is a praxeology, how to function. But at the end of the day, what his supposed praxeology does is it infects the minds of young men with a doomer ideology for them to seek pleasure. And let's be honest here, There is a spiritual component to sex and to intimacy and to marriage and to child rearing and all of this stuff. But I mean, this is going to sound crass, but to dump a load for men, the sexual function of men is not too much different from poops and farts and burps. It is a fucking bodily function.
It's something that we need to do. Absolutely.
Something you do so you don't kill people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's ridiculous. I didn't know that about Rollo Tomassi, that he considers what he's doing not an ideology, not because, you can't do, you can't be non-ideological. I mean, yeah, arguably you can, but because the praxeology, the praxis, the practical outcome of what he's doing is fucking sterility, right? You will know them by their fruits, right? Like, you need to look at what the shit actually fucking yields at the end of the day. What is it? What is the result of this thing? What has it resulted in for Andrew Tate personally? He's got a lot of money. He absolutely does. But where is he right now? He fucked up because, I mean, he's probably going to be in jail for the rest of his life. Because he pissed off some very powerful people, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all need to take a stand. I actually admire what he did as far as standing up for anti-COVID shit and for masculinity and everything like that. But here's the thing: he did all that before he created a legacy for himself. I watched enough of his material where I came across where he says that he does want kids. He wants to have 20 sons, right? And what I said before about the absentee father shit, he's like, 3 of them could be living in Mongolia, 3 of them could be living in Dubai, 3 of them could be living in Berlin, blah, 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 shit, right? Like, while dad's traveling the world and fuck bitches get money, but he's an inspiration to them. Like, this is his idea of fatherhood. It's completely retarded. But the thing is, it's probably not going to happen for him now, is it? Right? Like, he's kind of like, he's going to go to jail probably for the rest of his life, because quite frankly, he does in a real way represent some sort of threat to the system. He's not a perfect threat, but nonetheless, he is a threat. But he missed his fucking chance, right? He should have had his kids already. Like, the guy's pushing 40. He's not young, right? He's not fucking 22 or something like that. He represents sterility. He does, as much as he says, like, I want all these kids and blah, 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 blah. He doesn't have them, right? And he's probably going to have missed his chance now. It's this sterility is a real fucking problem. It's a real problem today. And I'm not saying that, we need to be birth rate maximalists or anything like that. I'm not saying that, any of that shit. But just look, again, you've got to look at what the result is. This is my objections, what I was saying before about philosophy and foundationalism and axiomatic rationalism and everything like that. What did it lead to? Look at take philosophy, for example. I mean, this is something that does anybody dispute that philosophy is great or high or deep or abiding or any of these things? It's this is supposedly the acme of human excellence and wisdom and intellect. I mean, for fuck's sake, that's what it means. It means love of wisdom, right? But look at every society that had philosophy, okay? Look at the Greeks of the Periclean age. Look at the Romans of the time of Cicero. Look at the Chinese in the time of Confucius. And then look at what they looked like 200 years later. All of them fucking conquered or falling apart or dying, right? This tells you what that's worth, right? And if you look at something like the worldview that Andrew Tate is selling, I don't want to get in too much trouble here because, I don't want to insult anybody's religion, but this is happening globally. This is happening to every religion. This is happening to Islam. It's happening to Buddhism. It's happening to Christianity. All of the shit is getting sterilized. And what Andrew Tate represents is the Dubaiification of Islam, the secularization of Islam, the sterilization of Islam. Islam with a fertility rate of 1.5 children per woman, right? This seems to be the future. This is like where this shit is heading, right? Like, what's the birth rate in the United Arab Emirates? Well, I looked it up. It's 1.35 children per woman. It's below fucking the West, right? This is the problem with Andrew Tate. It's his worldview, his approach, his solutions. They don't generalize. They don't generalize beyond him. They don't generalize beyond Genghis Khan, right? They don't generalize beyond the king. Again, we shouldn't fetishize birth rate maximalism, but at the same time, if your ideology sterilizes you, like ipso facto, it's retarded and gay. And like Andrew Tate's approach is designed to make strong men. Okay, that's good. We need strong men. You know, I want to focus on this for the last little while in the episode about needing strong men. But if it does it at the expense of strong folkhoods, then it ain't worth a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's at the end of the day, masculinity in and of itself is something that we're like trying to figure it out, because here is, and I've said this before, and this is a little bit hard to swallow. And when I say these things, people like come at me, right? A lot of what we do, as far as like masculine expression, is a surrogate activity because it has been rendered obsolete, right? Yeah. You know, going to the gym to get jacked, doing martial arts, doing these kinds of things. These are surrogate activities to make ourselves feel better, and feel like we have function in a society, in a system where we no longer truly have a purpose. The industrialization has made masculinity, at least the most important aspects of masculinity, obsolete. And as I've said before, sometimes cope is a healthy thing. Sometimes cope is something that you need to do in order to get through something. So these surrogate activities are important. If we give them up, then we're just like rolling over, and we might as well just kill ourselves, because we can't even pretend to be men in society. But here's the deal, is that you have to go to the gym, you have to work out, you have to get stronger because it's good for you. Ideology, surrogate activities, and stuff aside, you have to be a healthy creature, and you have to do these things to become a father. Even though in modern society, and this is something from the Manosphere that is correct, modern women, if they so choose to, at their own whim, can make a phone call and have you removed, and you have no power. The way that men and fathers are treated in modern society is fucking monstrous, is absolutely just blasphemous. And
this is where these guys have it right.
This is where they have it right. And I'll tell you guys, when my children were born, especially this was one of my biggest red pills. When my first son was born, the doctors and the nurses would try to like ask me to leave the room. When I wasn't around, they would ask my wife if I beat her, and whose last name does she really want on the birth certificate? Like, these are the kinds of things. She could have just said, "I don't want him here. I want my name on the birth certificate," and I would have been like fucked. They would have like called the police and just had me removed by men with guns. If she, in modern society, a woman can literally make a phone call and the state will send agents with guns to come forcibly remove men from their household. And then she can take them to court and rape them financially for the rest of their lives. And there's nothing they can do about it. This is fucked. This is fucked. At the end of the day, masculinity can never return to a healthy form until we've completely and utterly in all aspects return the power of the father. Until the dad becomes the source of power, the authority in his household and in society at large, we will never heal. in order for us to heal spiritually, physically, and in order for children to come from healthy households, so much of society is fucked because men and women are raised in single mother households. And I'm not saying that all single women, single mothers are nefarious. Sometimes they marry there is tons of shitbag dudes out there, scumbags that go off and cheat and leave and abandon their families. There are tons of guys like that. But it is a like self-devouring, all-devouring cycle of retarded men raised by single moms that abandon their families for more children to be raised by single moms, and it goes on and on and on, and the state steps in to become this perversion, this mockery of the father in an abstract. And for this reason, society is fucked until dads return to power. And this is like ultimately the theme of Culture Dads, is until dads return to power, until there's the return of the dad, society will never heal. And we have to bring that back. And that is what the goal of the Manosphere should be. It should fuck the Manosphere. It should be the Dadasphere.
Yeah.
100,000%.
Totally.
And you guys out there, let me tell you guys something. As a father, as a guy that is a leader in a community, as a guy that does my thing, you single guys out there, your job, if you want to become part of something, if you want to join a Manorbund, if you want to join a community and not be an isolated, atomized bug man that contemplates fucking suicide and stares at screens and lives in this mindless, drab, fucking bland, capitalist grind of work, jerk off, watch movies, consume, sleep, repeat. If you want to escape that, what you must do to join these communities in a meaningful way that helps them flourish and thrive and grow into something greater than what they are is you must join and support dads. Become like in command to helping dads and willingly become like a student or a little brother or this kind of thing, even if the dad is younger than you, because let me tell you, being a dad today in current year is fucking hard. Is hard. You think the world is hostile to you just as a man? Become a father. Become a father and go and on the days that are supposed to be the most special days of your entire life, seeing your children born, the system treats you like a fucking animal, like a dog, like you don't have any rights, you don't belong. It treats you like this. You get treated like a dog at every corner, and you have a hard time. So, men out there that want to join a community, join and help and become supportive of dads, and with their support and with their guidance, you too can become and fulfill your purpose of becoming a dad. Because here is some advice from a dad to you guys, from a husband to you guys. The Manosphere fucking pickup artistry horse shit is exactly that. You will never find a good woman through your dating apps. You will never find a good woman at the bar. Good women do use the systems, the social systems that they have always used since the beginning of time, and that is they use the adjacent social circles as a vetting process in order to get to know you, to understand whether or not you are a quality man to pair bond with. Good women are not on dating apps. Good women know that in order to find a good man, that man must first get approved by her brothers, get approved by her friend circles, get approved by her cousins, get approved by her coworkers, get approved by all of the layers of her social circles in order to get to her. Because by the time you get to her, She instinctively knows that you have not thrown up red flags to these gates of vetting, and therefore then she will give you a chance. If you are not part of it, and I know it's tough, especially for Zoomer guys, because a lot of you guys have had these, you're from broken homes, you are atomized, you don't have these social circles anymore. Everything for you is online and fucked up. But you must willingly seek out these social circles, and it's not going to be like anything else. Everything else in your life, you are used to instant gratification, instant results, click and buy, delivered to your house, fast food, fast this, instant download, fucking dating apps, swipe left, swipe right, get pussy that night. That's not how quality, meaningful things operate. You have to prove that you are here for the long haul, that you are a quality of person, and that you are here to stay. And you must go through these levels of initiation. And I'll tell you another thing, the alpha male shit. Every man, if they can't be an alpha male, they're like, oh, I'm going to become sigma male. Most men that they want to seek out and become alpha males are fucking narcissists. And they don't want to become an alpha male. Here's the deal. I'm a fucking alpha male. I didn't choose this. I got thrusted into it. And sometimes I don't like it. And sometimes I would rather not do the things. But it is the role that was chosen for me by the gods. You guys that want to seek out and become alpha male, if you are not thrusted into it, then it is not for you. There are plenty of roles within the male hierarchy that are equally as meaningful, equally as good. And if you are not an alpha male, it does not mean that you're a bitch. You have value in the male hierarchy. You have value in this, and you should beware of men that seek out this alpha role because they think that it's going to give them easy access to pussy, easy access to status, and easy access to power over other men because they themselves feel powerless in their life and have narcissistic traits. And these men should be avoided. Men that naturally fulfill the alpha role can be trusted usually. And the way that you know a true alpha is a true alpha garners trust in the men around him. These men trust him. They love him. When he speaks, people listen. And he is not Andrew Tate. The true alpha male is a shepherd. He's a guy that looks out for his people. He's a guy that leads and energizes and motivates and cares and loves. He is an authority, but he also has a big heart. And he cares about you, and he wants to, help lift you up and all of these kinds of. This is a fucking alpha. An alpha isn't a pump and dump rich fucking guy with a six pack. An alpha is a shepherd. An alpha is a patriarch. Period. What they propose as the alpha male is literally just a hedonist. So that's what I have to say about that.
Absolutely, man, for sure. It's, one of the most revealing things that I ever heard was women talking about what they find attractive in a man. And it was a very honest appraisal of what they were saying. That what they were saying is that what is attractive in a man is not a man who is dominant, who dominates a woman. It's a man who is respected by other men. Other men are the gauge of your sexual worth. This is a really hard pill to swallow. It's very counterintuitive for men who are used to being judged by women. There's that famous thing that was a survey that was done on some dating app where women rated 80% of men as below average attractiveness, right? I mean, there's, that speaks volumes in and of itself. Men are used to that. They're used to being judged as their sexual attractiveness by women. The ultimate, final authority on whether you what your status is and in sexual status too is other men, right? It's other men who gauge your worth, and women pick up on that and they see it and they just go along with it, right? Just and no disrespect to the ladies in our scene or anything like that, but Hosepi Topuli, we have to look at like what is the average. We have to look like what is the case in general, on the whole, for the most part, right? We're not like Naxalt doesn't fly in our scene. We want to look at what the trend is, and the trend is that women generally follow. Women generally follow what men do, right? So this is no less the case in their sexual selection. And this is like astounding once you actually understand it. So yeah, this is like, this is something that we just need to understand. And, one of the things that other men respect more than anything else is not being a fucking coward. I don't know any other way to put it. But what Dave was talking about there a few minutes ago, about how the father has fallen so far in his estimation in terms of, as an archetype in society, as an archetype of authority. Like the dad has been Homer Simpsonified, right? That he's just been completely turned into a fucking joke, right? Not cool, the exact opposite of cool, not competent, not authoritative, not respectable or anything like that. Well, we have to ask ourselves, how did that happen? How did we get to this point where the father, what is truly the archetype of the authority? What is authority but authorship, right? And the father is the author of other human beings, right? Like this is authority par excellence. How did it get to where the father is a joke? Well, it's because basically, I'll give you the take right up front here. It's because men are fucking cowards today, right? We suffer from a pandemic of cowardice. Everything that's wrong with the world today is wrong because the vast majority of people will tolerate shitty behavior and do nothing. They'll do nothing about it. We saw this, right? We saw this in COVID. We saw this in the pandemic. The dissident right sort of self-flagellates quite a lot because, we're very prickly and disagreeable and we're all sort of herd of cats and everything like that. But I'll stand up now and I'll give us a pat on the back. We need more disagreeable men, right? We need these pussy ass men who are afraid to be disliked, to be toxic, are fucking useless. You just went through 2 years where you couldn't leave your house, where you were told to wear a mask for no goddamn reason at all, as the scientific consensus changed from week to week. You watched your friends despair and commit suicide over fucking lockdowns. You just spent 2 years getting forced injections. You probably have some sort of an immunodeficiency or some sort of a palsy or some sort of a heart palpitation from it. You just watched all these scumbag fucking parasite billionaires profit unimaginably off the suffering of you and your friends. And above all, you got lectured by dickless fucking zeros about how you're the problem because of it. And what did you do about it? Well, the average man just sat there and took it up the ass. Well, I'll tell you what, guys in our scene, guys who are listening to this podcast, the dads out there, and the men in the fucking dissident right who are disagreeable, who don't agree with the mainstream consensus, we're far more likely to stand up and say, no, I won't do it. No, I'd rather quit my job. No, I'll make you tell me to get a mask, right? What we said before, I'll put it over my ear and over my chin. I'll make you call the cops to make me leave. If 5% of men did that, just 5%, then this shit would have been over in a hurry. Because men, and I mean real men, don't give a fuck about shekels at the end of the day. They don't give a fuck about bitches and money. At the end of the day, if a worm is told to bend over and take it up the ass for a few bucks or some pussy, he'll do it. A man will tell you to go fuck yourself. But we have this pandemic of cowardice and a total fucking deficit of real men today. And as much as Andrew Tate doesn't have the full answer, he at least gets you fired up to not be that guy, right? He doesn't have the answers. He doesn't have the worldview, but he is a step along the way towards men standing up for themselves, having a spine, growing a dick, and not being afraid to fucking hate, right? Not being afraid to hate the right things. Because if you're afraid to hate, you've already lost. Like, one of my kids the other day asked me if they were supposed to, like, it was a weird question. It's like, Dad, am I supposed to like everything? And I sort of, like, took me aback for a second. I didn't really dig into it, but I assume she got this bullshit from outside the house, like, TV or something. Like, you should like everybody. You should be inclusive. You shouldn't be hateful or whatever nonsense, bullshit like that. And I'm like, no, you shouldn't like everything. And anybody who says they do like everything, there's something fucking wrong with them, right? Yeah. I mean, like, she's young, so you got to use, like, crude examples and impactful examples. So I'm like, do you like circle pasta for dinner? That's her favorite, right? She's like, yeah. Well, do you like poo for dinner? And then she, like, laughs her ass off. And I'm like, well, the person who likes everything has got to like poo for dinner. Does that seem normal? Does that someone want to be your friend? I'm like, the person who likes everything fucking sucks. Right? And then she's like, so does that mean you should hate everything? And I'm like, no, you don't want to do that either. It's very simple. You should like the things that are good and you should hate the things that are bad. Simple as, right? And she's like, like, this shit is obvious to you and I, but it's a bit of an aha moment for a little kid, right? And then she stops for a second. She's like, there are a lot of poo people, aren't there, Dad? I'm like, yes, honey, there are. Yeah. If a little girl can understand this, a grown ass man should be able to understand it, right? And my point is that if you're a grown ass man and you think hate is bad, you're not a man. You're just a fucking insect, right? Grown ass men hate. They hate what you ought to hate. And if you hate nothing except for hate itself, then you are the problem. And we're never going to get back to dads in charge. We're never going to get back to dad in the driver's seat, dad taking up his rightful place as the head of the household, as the authority in society or anything like that, until guys fucking stand up for themselves. And it's going to be hard. We're going to go through a period where men are going to get railroaded, where men are going to get, like, fucked up severely because it's gotten so bad, but you have to stand up anyway. Some men are going to lose their families. Some men are going to even lose their lives because they had to stand up for this shit. That's the only way things are going to get back to where they should be. We're at a crisis point. We're at the fourth turning. We're at the point where the great man needs to stride onto the scene, and he will. And when the great man comes, he's going to look for dads that are willing to fucking stand up and say no, right? And this is what we're trying to do with this podcast, is to get you guys fired up about all this shit, about masculinity, about fatherhood, about cool culture, about right-wing shit, about, like, everything that's good and true and deep and abiding in the world, about everything that matters. So, yeah, hopefully that's come across.
Yeah, exactly. And with the hate thing, the hate has to come from a place of love, to be honest. What does it say in Halvamal? It says, he who criticizes, the ill-mannered man criticizes all that he hears. If you're just a hateful fucking crab that is just, like, looking for things to hate, that ain't it. That ain't it. And guess what? Your hate is not as potent as mine. You know what I mean? I hate shit because it is blaspheming that which I hold sacred and that which I love. That is why I hate. That is my motivation for what I hate. And sometimes I hate things because it sucks. Yeah. So,
yeah.
I hate gent music and fucking dubstep, and just because it fucking sucks and, like, Zoomer music blows. Sorry, Zoomers, but it's true. Your music sucks.
It's true.
Yes. Okay, so maybe I just hate things but I really do hate those fucking, when I hear that shit is, I hate fucking anime. It repulses, it makes me want to puke. There's just something visceral of anyway, it doesn't matter. So that's a whole other thing. But Mike is right. This idea, you should have this passionate repulsion. You should feel repulsed by rotten things. And there are so many guys, and I actually kind of push back on this a little bit. I think it's a funny troll. I think that it's useful, like the post physique. If you can't post physique, then I don't listen to what the fuck you say, kind of thing. But this going too far, it gets a little bonehead, right? Because I've had guys that threaten to beat me up because they don't like my views, right? You're a fascist, or you're a racist, or you're a fucking Nazi, or whatever the fuck they say. Like, what if I just beat the shit out of you? And it's like, all right, well, here's the deal with that, scumbag, is that you can beat the shit out of me. You could bring a whole squad of dudes to come beat the fuck out of me. And it's never, ever going to change my worldview. In fact, it's going to make me worse. It's something you can't beat out of me, period. And the difference between me and you, and let's say that there's big jacked liberal that is a fucking MMA fucking savage that can just literally lay waste to me, right? That can just beat the fuck out of me. You are a surrogate activity of masculinity. You comply with the system. You are subservient to the system. Where it actually matters, where courage actually matters, you stick your head down and stick your ass up. You are a bug man. Regardless of how strong and how violent and how all these things you are, where it really matters, you're a bitch. I have stood up for what I believed in and put my neck out, and there's nothing you can physically do to stop me. Period. And that's the masculine thing. And I'll tell you what, there's a couple quick stories here of this. This is like really stood out to me. And this is like really like dad power shit. Right? When the whole mask thing was going on here in PA, I go to the Home Depot, and you know who I saw not wearing masks and being defiant and mouthing off to the employees? Fucking boomer dads. Like fucking jerk, idiot, fucking boomer Trump guys with their fucking beer bellies and their t-shirts tucked into their fucking cargo shorts and their white New Balance shoes with their socks pulled up. And he goes out and gets into his fucking his truck that he overpays for. That guy was like, "You don't tell me what to do. Fuck you. I'm not doing this jerk off shit. Go fuck yourself." That guy stood up. I look around and I see all these young guys, right? Strapping young lads, and they got their fucking mask on. Little bitch, with their fucking, Home Depot aprons, walk up. Sir, can you please put your mask? Yeah, okay. And they put their fucking masks on. No defiance. None. I'll tell you another story. And this really, really stood out to me. When I lived in New Jersey, I worked at a school system. I'm not going to give you where or what or whatever, but I was a janitor at a school, custodian at a school system. And there was this like LGBT thing that they were trying to push through. And they had a school board hearing about it. And the way that they handled this was they set up a bunch of tables in the gymnasium and they did a hearing, right? And you know who the fuck showed up? Dads. And honestly, a lot of Hispanic dads, like a lot of like Uncle Benny's, the Hispanic dudes pulled up in force, wearing their rosaries around their necks. And it was a lot of white dads too. None of these guys were like, raw egg nationalist looking dudes. None of these guys were like Bronze Age pervert looking dudes. Some of these guys were overweight. And I'm not saying that being overweight is a good thing. What I'm saying is that the masculinity comes from your soul, from your heart. And you should work to embody that in your body. You should do both. But these guys had so much dad power. They had so much masculine energy that they pulled up to this fucking homo school hearing where it's a bunch of fucking like frizzy haired cat ladies and a bunch of the glasses, a bunch of beta cucks, and they interrupted the whole shit, disrupted it. They were praying, they were shouting, they were calling names, they fucked the whole meeting up. And they couldn't have a normal meeting. They're screaming, calling names, calling them pedophiles, calling them Satanists, calling them all these fucking names. The Hispanic dads are like calling them, "Yay, fuck you, puto. fuck you, puto, like saying all this shit. You work for the devil, puto, like all this kind of. They disrupted the whole thing. This was like, I was like, this is what being a dad is about. This is masculine energy, just like forming up with your dad bros and shutting down fucking demonic homo shit with no They were threatening to call the cops. They're like, call the cops then. Call them. See what happens. We don't care. They didn't give a fuck about the cops. The bottom line is that they were there and they were ready to fight because they didn't want this homo shit getting pushed on their kids. That was based. That was masculine, right? And as I said before, it comes from the heart and it comes from the spirit. It's something that the gods bestow upon you. It is something that comes from nature. It is not something you can LARP as. It's not something you can steal. It's not something a woman can emulate. It is something that's in your heart and soul. And that's it. And it's about courage and bravery and defying things that are fucking evil.
Fuck yeah,
and
man.
Comes from a place of love. It comes from love, right? Those dads didn't pull up there on some ideological reason. They didn't do there because it's against their politics or whatever. I mean, I guess there was some religious motivation, but some of it was not. At the end of the day, those dudes pulled up because they love their kids, and these fucking freaks were trying to fucking prey upon them and teach them evil. End of the day.
That's some heroic shit there, man. That's like your everyday fucking hero. That is what we need more of, right? And boomers get a lot of shit for being boomers in our sphere. But the fact is, and we don't really have time to go into it, the boomer probably has higher T than the average fucking Zoomer today. And now this is not this is not an anti-Zoomer stream or whatever. This is whatever. It's just a fact. The fact is that men have been declining for a very long time, biologically as well as culturally. And it's just part of the scenery. It's like part of what's been happening. And part of the reason for that is that we have had the decline of the idea of role models, right? And by that, I mean something like ostension, like pointing to role models. This is those guys who rocked up to that fucking pedophile cat lady meeting. Those are the men that you point to and say, that's what a hero is. That's what a dad is. That's what you should be, right? They're men who stand for something. And I think really what we've seen is kind of the decline of the idea of pointing to a hero and saying, that is what I'm all about, right? Which goes beyond the idea of a belief system that like you stand for the truth. Of course, you don't want to stand for falsehood, but it's not really about standing for something that's true or false. It's what we've seen is kind of the decline of the idea of virtue ethics, right? And by virtue ethics, what I mean is something like the idea of what would Jesus do, right? I mean, this is a folkish podcast. We're not Christians here, but that's a really based fucking heuristic for how you construct a worldview. It's a very based heuristic for morality, right? It's not so much about the teaching as looking at the guy, taking him as an example and trying to emulate him. Classical virtue ethics is wrapped up with some propositional nonsense, but at least it's moving in the right direction, right? Like specifically what I mean is that standing for a principle like, freedom or justice or whatever, that's better than nothing. But better than that even is pointing to the commands of your forefathers and saying that this is what I stand for. This is what my dad told me to do. This is what my culture tells me I need to do in this situation. I need to stand up for my kids. I need to say, no, fuck these f***s. You're not going to teach my kids this bullshit in school. That's my imperative, right? But even better than that is pointing to the founder. It's pointing to George Washington. It's pointing to the Romans would have pointed to Romulus and Numa. It's the English pointing to Hengist and Horsa or Arthur or something and saying, that guy, this is what we're about. We're about the founder. We're about that man who exemplifies everything that it is to be American, everything that it is to be English, and so on and so forth, right? It's pointing at heroes and saying, I'm about that, because that's what's going to give you the fire and the courage in your breast to be able to stand up against a fucking totalitarian state that is just so much bigger than you. But that's what gives you the courage to do that, right? Heroes like that, heroes are in short supply today. But what's worse, you're not even allowed to point to a hero from the past and say, that guy, like what I'm saying, right? If you do, it's something gay like MLK or Lincoln or something from the very recent past. You're not allowed to reach back to the founding of our countries. And you're especially not allowed to reach back to antiquity. And you're absolutely not allowed to reach back to archaic times. I mean, after all, like, what symbol will get you arrested if you fly it on a flag today? Know what I'm saying? Symbols are powerful precisely because they're pre-propositional, because they don't make a statement that's true or false. They point to something. They invoke something. They're like a flag that we can rally around. And the state does not want you to rally around anything today except itself. The totalitarian state has interposed itself between men and their role models, between men and their heroes, between men and their dads, right? This is why the dad is so important. The dad is the ultimate intermediary between tyranny and the family. And the state has largely replaced all of those intermediaries. So if you want to know why men have declined, why they aren't what they used to be, and so on and so forth, it's because they've lost this pointing, this what would Jesus do, what would Arthur do, they've lost this ostensive definition of what it is to be a man. We've lost the ability to point to that and say, that's a man, my dad, that's what a man looks like. It's why I think it's kind of, I mean, conservatives are very concerned about, they want to ask the question, like, what is a woman and all of that, right? When in reality, they have no fucking idea what a man is. That's what the dissident right is offering. That's what the scene is offering. Those conservatives don't stand against anything. We do, right? We are the ones that stand up, put our shit on the line, put our necks on the line, lose our bank accounts, get unpersoned, lose our jobs, lose our careers. That is what it is to be a fucking man, okay? And we have that and nobody else does. Not the Manosphere, not conservatives, not any of that shit. Real masculine energy resides in our scene and pretty much exclusively in our scene. So that's what I got to say about that.
Excellent. Excellent. Return of the dad, fuck the Manosphere, all that. I knew this was going to be a big one. But we're over 2 hours, Mr. Mike. You want to wrap it up?
Let's do it.
All right, folks, if you are not signed up already, make sure to go over to imperiumpress.org/podcasts and go get signed up to the Gumroad. Guys, I'm telling you, so much excellent content over there. Great perks like hardback books. You get the hardbacks of the Western canon. I have a few copies. Man, they're just excellent. So go get yourself a copy. Go get signed up. You get Culture Dads every single week. You can't beat it. So go get signed up over there and help support Imperium Press and pursue their destiny to blossom and to become the institution that they were born to be, so they may save the Western canon from those who wish to erase it. The anti-dad, anti-white fucking parasites. They're going to save the Western canon. You want to check out what I'm doing? Make sure to go over to thebizarchives.com for some based fiction. Go buy books. Lots of great books over there. Bizarre Archives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is coming out. Gods of Pagana just came out. Weird Works of Dave Martell, my collection of poetry and fiction from the past few years. Go get yourself a copy of that. Bizarre Archives 5 coming out very soon. We got lots of great stuff over there. So go check it out. Buy books, support the fiction, the pulp scene, the base pulp scene. It's growing, it's blossoming, it's becoming great. Follow us on Twitter and Telegram at the Bizarre Archives. Hails and blessings to all you dads out there and all you great men and women and ladies that enjoy Culture Dads. We appreciate and love all of you. And I'll see you guys next time here on Culture Dads Age of Sword.